She died between a heartbeat and a breath, and Orpheus, the man who could sing trees into bloom, decided the grave was not enough to keep her. The song that broke the dead. Chapter: The wedding and the wound. They say the gods wept at their wedding. Even Apollo paused the sun. Even Artemis laid down her bow. For that day, in the grove thick with olives and laurel, Orpheus sang the world into stillness. And Eurydice, wild-eyed and barefooted, laughed like the sky had never known thunder. He played a song that made flowers open midwinter, one that made bees sleep on still air. It was not joy he sang, but certainty. That this and this union, this love, was not a promise, it was a truth, a new law written in sound. But the gods don't love certainty. They love stories, and stories must bend. She stepped on a serpent, just a breath later, running barefoot through tall grass, her veil catching sun, a hiss, a cry, a silence. She died before the echo stopped. Orpheus found her body cold and kissed her eyes until his lips bled. He screamed her name until birds fell from the sky. And when he picked up his lyre again, the sound had changed. It was no longer music. It was grief given shape. His strings tore clouds in half. His melodies cracked marble. He played a song that made shepherds abandon their flocks and priests forget the names of their gods. The world listened and broke a little. No one could speak to him. Not his mother, not his friends. He refused food, refused sleep. He played. One day, he stood at the mouth of a cave, the one they called a throat to the underworld. The wind from within smelled like rot and memory. He tuned his lyre and stepped inside. He did not ask permission. He did not pray. He walked downward, downward, downward still, until the world forgot light. They say mortals cannot enter the land of the dead. But Orpheus was no longer mortal, not truly. He was made of song and hunger. And the underworld, cold, endless, deaf, heard him coming. Chapter 2. The Descent, with narration tags. The path beneath the earth did not welcome him. There were no signs, no torches, no turning back, just a slope of broken bone and black stone, and the stench of memory too old to name. Orpheus walked barefoot. He did not flinch. He did not pause. His lyre was clutched to his chest like a wound. His fingers bled against the strings, and still he played. With each note, the world around him shifted. Rocks wept moss, the shadows pulsed, the dead stirred. The river Styx was the first to notice. It hissed and seethed, full of teeth and regrets. Its waters did not reflect the living. They reflected only what had been lost. When Orpheus stepped to the shore, he said quietly, "Take me across." Charon, the ferryman, rose from the mist, eyes hollow, mouth stitched shut by centuries. He did not speak. He never did. Still, Orpheus played. A lullaby no one should remember, soft as dust. And Charon trembled. He lowered the boat in silence. Across the Styx they drifted, past shapes half-formed, souls too thin to stand. They reached for Orpheus, not to stop him, but to feel him, to remember the living one last time. He said nothing. He played only for one. At the gate, Cerberus waited, the great three-headed hound of Hades. One head slept, one growled, one wept blood. It rose, towering and tense, baring its teeth. But Orpheus didn't falter. He stepped forward and whispered, "This is not for you." Then he played. The music hung like incense, a note that trembled with sorrow, too deep to bite. Cerberus bowed its heads, then lay at his feet and whimpered. Then came the throne. The palace of Hades was no fortress, just emptiness carved into shape. Black marble drank the torchlight. Columns loomed like old gods waiting to be remembered. At its heart, two thrones. Hades, god of the underworld, spine straight, eyes fathomless. Persephone, still as bone, crowned in wilted petals. They did not speak, they simply watched. Orpheus stood before them, nothing but a man with a lyre and a name. He bowed his head, then said, "I come for Eurydice." He did not beg. He did not kneel. Instead he played, and the song was silence made sound, a lament for those left behind, a requiem for every scream that went unanswered, a prayer without words, sung into the bones of the world. He sang her name, Eurydice, software sharp, sacred. He said it like it could bring her back. Persephone wept, one tear, that was all. Hades closed his eyes. When the music ended, he spoke, his voice low and final. "She may follow you," said Hades, "but you must not look back. Not once. Not for grief, not for doubt, not even for love." Orpheus nodded. "I understand," he said. He turned. He did not ask how far. He did not ask how long. He simply stepped forward, and behind him he heard nothing. No footstep. No breath. Only the vast hush of death itself. Chapter 3. The silence and the turning. The silence followed him like a ghost. It clung to his back. It pooled in his ears. It whispered in the rhythm of his steps. And Orpheus walked, one foot, then the next. The path behind him, hidden, the one he loved, unseen. Each step was a question. Is she still there? Is she following? Is she real? He didn't speak these questions. He didn't dare. But the silence answered anyway, with more silence. The tunnel twisted, time bent. He walked for what could have been minutes or 100 years. His hands trembled on the lyre. He did not play. The rule was clear. Not a sound, not a look, not until sunlight touched them both. The underworld changed the deeper he climbed. The stone grew damp, the shadows more solid. Echoes started to return, but not his own. He heard footsteps that matched his, then paused when he paused. He heard a breath that wasn't his. He heard her voice, once, soft, behind him. "I'm here," said Eurydice. But she wasn't allowed to speak, and he wasn't allowed to turn. He bit his tongue. Blood filled his mouth. He kept walking. And then, another voice, not hers. Lower, cruel. It said, "She never followed you. You walked alone." Orpheus flinched. "No," he whispered to himself. "She's behind me. She has to be." The path narrowed. He stumbled. Rocks bit at his feet. The darkness didn't care. "You sang for nothing," the voice said. "You sang to an empty room. You believed a god." He clenched his fists. The lyre groaned in his grip. He said nothing, but the silence kept pushing, pulling, gnawing at his certainty like worms in wood. What if they lied to you? What if she never rose? What if she's just a shadow now? What if you turned back now, just to make sure? His breath caught. He could feel her. He swore he could, but silence is a cruel mirror, and faith is a blade. The passage narrowed again. A shaft of pale light stretched ahead, not warm, but real. The surface. He was close, so close, and yet his heart screamed. What if it was all a trick? What if they were punishing him? What if this whole journey had been for nothing? He stopped walking. The silence pressed against him, thick and cold. "Eurydice," he whispered, knowing he shouldn't. No reply. "Please," he said, tears biting his throat. "Just let me hear you." A footstep, behind him, so faint he wasn't sure it had ever been real. His hands shook, his knees buckled. He turned, and there she was, Eurydice, pale, beautiful, real. Her eyes wide with horror, her mouth open to scream. But before she could say anything, her body unraveled, like smoke in reverse, like memory erasing itself. Her hand reached out, but dissolved before she touched him. Her lips moved. "Why?" she mouthed. Then she was gone. Orpheus screamed, but the underworld didn't echo it. It swallowed it whole. He stood at the edge of light, alone. His fingers broke the strings of the lyre. He dropped it. It didn't shatter. It simply stopped being needed. He did not cry. He walked the rest of the way in silence. Not because he had to, but because he didn't know how to make a sound anymore. Chapter 4. The Ash and the Echo. Orpheus left the underworld in silence. No one stopped him. No one chased him. Even the shadows looked away. The gate closed behind him with a sound like forgetting. He walked barefoot into the land of the living. But he was not part of it anymore. His hair was grey, his eyes hollowed, his hands no longer fit for strings. The sun touched his face, but he didn't lift his head. The lyre was still on his back. Useless. Quiet. He never played again. Villagers saw him wander through fields, past temples, through cities. He did not speak. He did not sing. And so, people told stories. "That's the man who sang to death," they said. "The one who lost her twice." "Don't look him in the eyes," someone whispered. "There's nothing left in there." They weren't wrong. Orpheus began to avoid the living. He slept in ruins, spoke to rivers. Sometimes he would hum, not melodies, just notes. Flat, bare, like he was testing whether the world could still feel him. It couldn't. One night, he returned to the grove where they had wed. The flowers were gone. The altar collapsed. The tree where they'd kissed now bent under its own weight. He sat beneath it, closed his eyes, and whispered her name. "Eurydice," he said, almost too soft to hear. No echo answered, not even the wind. There are many versions of how he died. Some say he was torn apart by wild women who hated his silence. Others say animals found him singing to bones and mistook him for prey. But none of that matters, because Orpheus was already dead. When the end came, it was quiet. The kind of quiet you find in the space between stars. They found his body by the river, face peaceful, hands curled like they still cradled the lyre. The strings were gone, plucked by time, by grief, by gods. His eyes were closed, but some say he was smiling. They buried him in that grove. The earth drank deep, and from it wildflowers bloomed that never grew anywhere else. Soft, purple, fragrant. People called them morning blooms. They say if you press your ear to the soil on a still night, you can hear a single note. Not a song, not a melody. Just one eternal chord. The last note of a man who sang too far. But even that note fades, eventually. Even gods forget. Even stories fall quiet. Except this one. Because every time someone speaks his name, Orpheus, the song stirs again. Not in the world, but in us. In the part that believes we can still reach into the dark and pull back something lost.